The reports of two Jordanian nationals who attempted to breach the Marine Corps base in Quantico, Virginia. It's obviously drawn increased scrutiny from Congress as new details are emerging in this case. In fact, details that were initially concealed from the public. And all of this, I would remind you, is coming at the same time that Senate Democrats yesterday failed to pass a messaging bill that they were trying to push that pretends to strengthen border security and would have allowed the Biden administration to claim that Republicans are the one that have blocked efforts to address this crisis. We've got much to discuss, and joining me now to talk about this and much more is Congressman Andy Biggs. He serves on two extremely important committees, the House Judiciary Committee and the Oversight and Accountability Committee. He represents the 5th Congressional District of the great state of Arizona. Congressman Biggs, always great to see you, my friend. Welcome back to Washington Watch.
Thanks, my good friend, Congressman Heiss. Glad to be with you.
Well, it's an honor to have you, and in advance, hope you and your family have a wonderful Memorial Day. But let's get into this. We continue to see week after week after week the results of the failed border crisis of this administration. Talk about, if you will, the national security issues that this failed border policy has created.
Well, so this thing where you have two Jordanians going to Quantico, allegedly trying to break in, it highlights what happens when you have literally millions of people who illegally come into the country, and we're dispersing them everywhere. I just was watching multiple clips earlier today of the border within the last 36 hours. And you have people from Iran coming in. You have people from Turkey coming in. You have people from every country coming in. And they don't all have good intentions toward our nation, right? A lot of them have been steeped and indoctrinated against this country. They don't share our values. They don't share our culture. But they're coming in, and some of them have malicious intent. So I think it's really interesting that the oversight we're doing now is because the federal government's not doing enough oversight to monitor our borders. So we have to monitor the monitors, if you will. And that's really a dangerous situation for a free constitutional republic when you don't have a border.
Well, you've been a leading voice on this issue for a couple of years now. In fact, you and I have made several trips to the border ourselves. And last time, in fact, we were there. In one particular part, the day before, there were 4 Middle Easterns who were apprehended right there. And the question is, why were they coming? What was their attempts? Who knows how many thousands of people like this? You serve on the Judiciary Committee. Chairman Jim Jordan and yourself and others on the committee have been demanding answers from Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. What are you hoping to learn in these attempts to get some answers?
Well, we want to know, first of all, will they admit that their policy is causing national security threats? And right now, Secretary Mayorkas actually said within the last 7 days that he didn't think it did. He thought the policy was fine. So we have to push him on that. But the second thing is, we need to find out how many people are illegally in the country. And just so you know, Jody, the Tucson sector is the #1 sector for human trafficking and drug trafficking. These are people coming in between the border that are getting away. These people do not necessarily want to be caught. They're not surrendering like you see in a lot of places. These people are coming in camo. They're carrying backpacks. They're doing everything they possibly can. So we want to find out what the interdiction is going to be and what the plans are. And they have no plans whatsoever to even stop this because they don't think it's a problem, which is eyebrow raising.
It really is. And it's amazing to me, even hearing you again talk about Mayorkas saying their policies are fine. It's not creating any problems whatsoever. So on the one hand, they say everything's fine, everything's good. But just yesterday, Democrat Senates are trying to pass a messaging bill blaming the border crisis on Republicans. So they're all over the map. In fact, I want to play this clip for you from White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre earlier this week, where she herself is also joining this game, trying to pass blame. Play clip 2, please.
The president has the authority to do something about this unilaterally. Congress is in a divided government right now. Why isn't he doing anything?
Why should he have to do it unilaterally? Why should we do it in a legislative way? And let's not forget that negotiated
Action before to undo some of.
Wait, so you're right. He took many executive actions before. But in order to deal with what's happening at the border, in order to deal with a broken immigration system, you need law. You need legislation.
So we don't have any laws saying what should happen on the border?
Yeah, no, Jody, this is what I keep telling people. Title VIII has not been repealed. Title VIII is the law that governs border security. This president, within 36 hours, issued 93 executive orders to undo our secure border. He did that January 20th to 21st, 2021. And now that it's an 80-20 issue in an election coming up, and the entire country has been affected negatively by a policy that he is, just stridently adhered to, he's now coming along and saying, hey, it's the Republicans' fault and they need to do something. But the bottom line is he did it by executive order. He has all the authorities right now to close down the border. There are specific statutory authorities given to him to close the border when he deems that there's a security issue. He refuses to do that. It is all on Joe Biden. He knows it, and the American people know it.
Absolutely, not to mention the untold number of other laws that they're just not abiding by. I mean, you've got the executive orders undoing so much, but then we still have tons of laws that are just being ignored and swept under the rug. It could be the solution. Possibly would be a new administration in November. That would probably help things. Well, let me shift gears a little bit on you. When Congress returns here in June and a couple of weeks after the recess, one of the top items is obviously going to be the contempt of Congress resolution against Attorney General Merrick Garland. How serious is his failure to respond to the congressional subpoena? This is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it and why I've been advocating for Speaker Johnson to do this sooner rather than later is if we don't hold Merrick Garland in contempt, it will basically undermine the Congress's constitutional responsibility to oversee the executive branch agencies that we fund. Think about that. What he's doing, he'd be thumbing his nose in our face. It's kind of like Eric Holder. Eric Holder really set the standard. Lois Lerner, these people set the standard, and now you see it happening where executive branch agencies are refusing to provide us with information. This is vital information that we need for actually our legislative purpose, but it will undermine any Congress going forward vis-a-vis any executive administration going forward. That means they're going to be able to say, well, we're going to rely on the Merrick Garland pattern or the Eric Holder pattern or the Lois Lerner pattern, where you get a contempt citation and nothing happens. In this instance, we aren't even taking it to the floor yet.
Unbelievable. Real quickly, and we've got less than a minute, but you've introduced a resolution condemning the ICC's arrest warrant on Prime Minister Netanyahu. Why is this such an important issue for Congress to respond? Real quickly.
Because the ICC is not legitimate. It is trying to invade our sovereign authority or Israel's sovereign authority, and we didn't ratify that as part of a treaty. And the reality is the ICC is an illegitimate multilateral institution, in my opinion. I happened to be there in the Rome conference when this was being formed, fighting for pro-life NGOs. But the reality is, Jody, we have got to put our foot down and say no. Otherwise, you never know what sovereign state's going to be invaded next by ICC folks.
Thank you, Congressman Andy Biggs. Always great to see you. Best to you and your family. Have a great weekend.